Good morning, gentlemen. Here we are once again. Hopefully we are really winding down on some of our task assignments. So we are convening and let's begin by approving the minutes, which I am so grateful David did. Oh, I need a minutes taker. Who's going to help with this? If you just take down any motions, I will fill in the rest. Who can do this again for me, please? Tony, can you try?
I think Bob is a better writer than I am.
He's
No,
loaded with writing right now. Paul or Tony, if you can just write down any motion.
I will do it.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful.
Thank you,
I'll fill
Tony.
in all the rest. Thank you.
You're welcome.
thank you, Tony.
All right, so we're set there. So let's take a look at the, I presume you've already read the minutes and you might want to make a
Yes.
motion.
I move we accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
One question for you I wanted to clear up. We're in
Uh-oh.
discussion right now on this motion. Under the request, where are we? Small technical, number 7, new business. Mike Thomas didn't respond to my request for the analysis. My request got through from Kevin, who I presume got it from Mike. So it's a small thing. I don't think it matters much, but the actual source was Kevin. You follow me on number 7?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. I don't think we need to make a change. I just wanted to tell you that, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So are there any other discussion on the minutes? Are you ready to call it?
Yep.
All those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
I with my hand.
All approved. Motion passes.
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Now, I'm going to ask you if you have any need to change the order of things. Do you want to do the auditor, treasurer, assessor first? Or would you like to start with sheriff? I'll let you guys decide. Doesn't matter?
It is. Like it
Okay.
is.
Well, let's then go to the way it is. Auditor, treasurer, assessor. What are your thoughts at this point in time? Oh, go ahead, David. You had your hand up first.
Well, I assume we're still waiting for the financial analysis of changes. So we don't have that information yet. I don't know if that's forthcoming or not. But I also remember something about how we were asked by Mike through Kevin to first come up with how we saw the restructuring taking place on the ground. I mean, who is moving desks from where to where? So are we waiting to decide if we want to do that, try to come up with this plan first before Mike does his thing with the numbers, or which comes first?
Well, I thought that Dick Rout was going to talk to Mylene last week. That's what I recall from my notes.
Yep.
Did that happen? Any chance, Dick?
I was afraid you would remember that. It didn't get done. I will do it today. But remember, I mean, I don't think we have to really dwell on that. We can get that to Mike, but Mylene presented a very clear separation and division of a group of positions that would go to one office, a group of positions that would go to the other office. It wasn't complicated, is my point. So I will get the information and I will send it out by email to everybody. But I think we probably ought to discuss anyway, even without that and without Mike's input. What do we think about that? You know, in general, I mean, where is the committee? It'd be good to get a sense of the committee.
I agree. So let's go to Paul.
Well, can I just ask, let's go under the topic of why. Why do you
Yeah.
think it's a good idea?
Good, thank you. Now, go ahead, Bob.
Are we, I'm a little confused. So we are not discussing elected or appointed, we're discussing merging. Is that right?
We're looking at consolidating. What's on the table right now actually is everything. But what the last idea was to take the treasurer's position and move separated into two
Right.
things. And I think the question that Paul is posing is absolutely the correct one. Why are we doing this?
I have a secret reason, which maybe isn't so secret. And that is that I believe that if you do it that way, and you take those functions and all of the people who perform them and give half, or no, let's say half, it's not half, I'm sure, but put part with one department and part with the other department, then they all keep their jobs, they all continue to perform their functions, and the person at the head goes bye-bye. So theoretically, I'm sure it never works in, like you'd want it to work in theory, there would be room for an additional elected official. And I think that elected official would be the climate commissioner or whomever fits in that position. I think it is approaching inevitable that we have one. It's not there yet, it could turn around, but it feels to me like that's where we are headed. And it would be easier to sell something like that, as important as watching out for this climate and environment is to us. It would be easier for us to sell something like that if we can point to a way that we saved money. Look, we consolidated these departments in a way that works and came up with money. Now, if it doesn't work, if it's not going to work for some reason, I don't want to do it just to save money. But if we can do it and have it work and save money and pay for another position, I think that rather than being anathema, oh, you can't do that, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, Tony, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Every one of those folks that we talked to said that they are actually working elected officials. They're not just supervisors of the department. They actually work as a part of a treasurer, as part of an auditor, and so on. So by consolidating the positions, are we really saving money? Because somebody has to do that portion of their FTE that is done by them. And when you end up with all of that, you're creating really not much of a savings as far as the headcount is concerned, because you have to have the headcount, at least that's what we're told, you have to have the headcount to do those functions. You might save on the management component, obviously, but not the FTE of each position. So you take a part of an FTE from a treasurer and a part of an FTE from the assessor, and you put them into the auditor or whatever combination there are, you still end up with the same FTE of personnel.
Yes, I agree.
And you're not saving that kind of money. And then,
Yeah.
That's
David, you have your hand up.
Yeah, well, I agree with Paul, but let me get back to what Bob has said. We have to decide on the structure before we go to discuss elected versus appointed, because we don't know until we decide on the structure or any combination. We don't know what positions there are going to be left, if anything. I think you still are going to need some of those higher level, the manager jobs, the elected job. They might not disappear, because you may transfer 2 people over to one department, 2 to another department, but that doesn't mean that Mylene and the assessor have the wherewithal to manage more people without having somebody be their supervisor or a sub-manager, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not really sure you're going to save that much, because I agree with Dick or Tony on that. But I think that's going to come out of the analysis. That's going to come out of whatever we give to what's his name, Mike. But in general, I don't know if we have a problem here that we're trying to solve. The problem, we've got a solution maybe without a problem. I don't think we should make this decision based on saving money to fund another department. I think that shouldn't be the reason for doing it, in all respect to Bob. I think that department is going to have to, new department if it's established, you're going to have another source of funding for it. I don't think that should be the rationale.
Yeah.
And I'm of the inclination right now to say it's not broken, and I don't think we should fiddle with it.
Yeah.
I think leave it as is. I'm not sure I'd vote that way right now without more information, but right now I'm kind of that mind.
I
Thank you.
understand. I understand. I feel very strongly, I agree with both Tony and David on this because I feel like we're coming up with an artificial remedy for something, for a system that isn't dysfunctional, that isn't broken. It isn't that it is in need of being fixed. And I've listened to what every elected person that we have interviewed has said, and they've all indicated that part of their role, part of their department head roles are to create those checks and balances between and among those departments, which is really important. And also, every one of them have had cutbacks that have pushed them to the limit. Paul was very, John, what's his name? John Kulsaf was very clear that he was pushed to the edge with, this cutting back on the services instead of people, but he was at his max. And so I think that's a big consideration. And unless this is really a dysfunctional three-system department thing, I don't see why we're doing it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Go ahead, Bob.
Just very, very brief. I'll just say that I feel like I am on the committee of people who know what they're talking about. And as a result, and particularly after listening to Tony, almost every time I listen to Tony say anything, I end up convinced of his point of view. So, which I am now. I still would like to see us be able to afford the other position. But once again, you all have said it. David said it. You said it, Maureen. So I withdraw my support for that. I'm for keeping things just as they are regarding taking them apart and putting them back together.
I would entertain thoughts about if we really wanted to make a change, to make them all appointed.
There you go.
Give them more money, and that won't change their jobs or their leadership, but it would give them some more money.
Maureen.
Okay, we've got a waving hand here in the name of Richard Grout.
I wondered if you'd ever see me.
Oh, I always see you.
Well, Bob, you pulled the rug right out from under me.
You were
I
going to
think,
side with me?
and you got to be careful because Tony has this demeanor where he comes across as being this font of wisdom and knowledge. You got to be careful. So
You do too, Dick. You do too.
I'm beginning to worry now. I got Bob and Dick on my side. I'm beginning to worry. I'm hiding my wallet.
so
Compelling, very
So
compelling.
anyway, I agree with everything you guys are saying, that the system is not dysfunctional, that we've heard from those elected officials, that particularly in the courthouse, that they've been pushed with all the budget cuts. So I'm not trying to make life more difficult for them, but I keep coming back to the reality that given the county budget overall, if we're going to propose a climate position, and I think based on the climate committee and what I hear from other CRC members who are not on that committee, I think that's going to get, my bet is that's going to get recommended out of the Charter Review Commission. And the issue then is going to be, how are we going to pay for it? I just feel like it's kind of irresponsible to hand it to the council and say, here it is, we're putting it on the ballot, and I'll bet it will get approval from the voters. Now you guys figure out how you're going to pay for it. That makes me uncomfortable to do that. And I don't know how they'll pay for it. It concerns me, and they don't have the option to consolidate offices, elected offices. They can't decide to do that. We're the only ones who can do that. So, I see a real quandary here.
I understand. And go ahead, David.
No, I think they do have the option, Dick, by proposing an amendment to the charter that has to go to the voters. But I believe they have the ability to pursue a route to consolidate, even if we don't, if they see that as the means of funding the environmental czar. Am I wrong on that? Or
No, you're correct. They can put it on the ballot, but what I would be concerned about is the big time lag there in trying to do what we told them to do, if that's what happens, and then them having to figure out how to fund it.
I'm very, very much against consolidating, pushing, shoving regular departments in the government currently to fund the climate thing. I think it's
Right.
got to be a grant-funded program for a few years to get it developed
Yeah.
and set up. It's not going to come out of general funds. There's no
Yeah.
way. So that has to be thought through. I've talked with Anne Marie about that, that is something that you guys should be really pushing on, and maybe spend time over the summer organizing how that would look and who could do a grant and how that might shape, because otherwise the county doesn't have the funds. Yes, Dick.
If we put it on the ballot and the voters approve it, the council doesn't have the option to sit around and wait and see if they get a grant. And grant funding is, I mean, most of you know, that's year to year or every couple of years, and you have no guarantee. It's a lousy way to fund permanent positions.
There's
Right.
another way-
But you develop it over time. There's more to it than just 2 years. I'm sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Well, there's a couple of ways to look at that in terms of being able to afford something that's going to be proposed by the CRC. If that should come down to that, there is no reason why the council in that same election say, if you want this, it's going to cost you so much dollars per assessed thousand, which equals the amount of money to establish that in the county. And they can do that all in one vote. So if you want this, it's going to cost you this much in order to do that job. So
That's interesting.
that's very possible.
Mhm.
But to
Well,
even
yeah.
make it, just one more thing, just to make this a sacrificial lamb of what we're doing now in order to do something else, it has no logic in my mind.
Uh-huh. Understood. Tony, go ahead.
Thank you.
Go
Maureen.
ahead, the guru.
Yeah, thank you. So there's actually a route to kind of make Dick and Bob feel at ease. If it is presented to the voters and it's approved as an elected position, it doesn't mean that December or January 1 the next year that position is because we have to develop the position. We have to have people to run for it next time. It could be a year or 2 years thereafter. So maybe there's time to develop some kind of financing for it, either by shifting around things in the county itself or whatever method of funding it. So there could be a year or 2 year period between the approval of electing a climate person to the time the climate person candidates are actually running for office. That could be a year or 2 years. So we might have some time to move things around. So I wouldn't worry about that part, Dick and Bob, because I think it could work. It doesn't have to happen, it doesn't happen in the same election.
Exactly. How about this, David? Go.
I agree with Tony. I mean, you could say recommend on the ballot, say recommend approval by and implementation by a certain date. And you could put that date out there realistically 2 or 3 years or something like that. So there's time. I have for Bob, I have a question. Have you guys explored in your discussions any alternative sources of funding other than this possible cost savings from the consolidation of different positions? Have you talked about other ways?
Should I answer?
Yes, please,
Madam
Bob.
Chair?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Uh,
I'm just.
Yes, in the initial proposal that I put out, I had as one of the duties of the individual to seek outside funding for the continuance of the office. That's one of the first things that person would do, and would do on an ongoing basis, because this could be a hot item for foundations. They could look at this and say, this is how we can support not just foundations, but individuals and corporations that feel like they're on the hot seat now. And that's starting to happen, as you know. And so that individual would have that job. But given what I'm hearing here, it makes sense that search needs to begin immediately upon this office being approved.
So why wouldn't, I'm sorry, I'm just going to jump in here. Why wouldn't your group consider putting together a panel of people as part of this proposal that serves for 1 to 2 years and they be the research on that. They are the ones that pulled this position, the job description, sources of funding, and mechanisms for it to succeed. I mean, it seems to me what Tony is saying is accurate. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to take a year or two to get its wings. So it seems you need a group to do that,
Like a planning committee.
like 7 people that are just going to concentrate on that.
Interesting.
Go ahead, Paul.
It appears that we're kind of moving off course here.
But it's an interesting
Well,
conversation.
it's a
isn't it?
great conversation. I take that, but we're not really talking about the auditor, treasurer, assessor as such.
Right.
So it appears to me that you're not going to save any money by doing what we've been talking about, removing the treasurer and redistributing it's just not going to be there.
Yeah.
So I would support a motion that's just to leave the auditor, treasurer, assessor as is with no change.
So moved.
There you go.
All
I'll
right.
second. Could you state exactly that?
Wait, I'm
Exactly.
taking notes. Hold on, everybody. I'm taking notes.
Yeah, please.
I fell asleep for a second. So
Paul, you made that motion, so let's go slowly through the words.
let me repeat the motion for a second, Paul. Paul moved to leave as is.
As is the auditor, treasurer, assessor's office as is.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And Bob seconded, did you, Bob?
No,
And
that
Bob?
was David.
Oh, David, sorry,
Oh,
Dave.
David, okay.
It needs to be clarified, though. You're not talking about totally not considering anything about those offices. You're talking about no consolidation, no breaking up of the offices and
That's
consolidation.
correct.
That's
correct.
what this motion is about, right?
We're leaving them all as electeds this moment.
As
Yeah.
elected and as they are.
No. Okay, well,
All right, so that's the motion, and it's
Well-
moved and it is seconded. Discussion.
Wait, that's not my motion.
I didn't
So
think
I
so.
want to make it clear here.
Yeah.
Because you're actually talking about two different things. One, whether we appointed or elected versus keeping the offices as they are. My motion is leaving the offices as they are,
Yes.
period.
Which means, let's be clear, as electeds.
No,
No, we're not going to go there
as
yet.
3 separate offices.
Yes, 3
is what he
separate
means.
offices.
The offices that they are, without breaking any of them apart.
That's right, Bob.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
And I remember, Bob, you seconded it before David.
Oh, I did? Okay.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
As long as it's that, what the way
Okay.
Paul just described.
All right, so,
Let me,
okay,
Madam Chair, may I reread the motion?
please.
Paul moved to leave the auditor, treasurer, assessor separate. Is that correct?
As is.
As is. Okay, got it.
Separate as it presently is, yeah.
Separate as is. Okay.
Do you want to say without consolidation?
But that's automatic.
It's-
There's no
Okay.
consolidation if you leave it as is.
Okay,
And I have a seconded by Bob. All right.
so discussion. Go ahead,
Um,
David.
Comment, I would add offices, auditor, assessor, treasurer, offices.
Yeah,
So
that's-
That would be
better.
clear.
That's good, that's
Friendly
clear.
amendment.
No
Thank you, David.
confusion with the position itself, if we're talking about the offices.
We're talking about offices.
That's a friendly amendment. Bob, Paul, are you okay with that friendly amendment?
I am.
Yes.
Okay, good. Friendly amendment. Good, all
Okay.
right. All right, so any further discussion? Oh, Richard, sorry.
I'm going to vote against the motion, but only because I think it's premature and I accept that I am partially responsible for that. And if it were up to me, I would wait another week until we can get Kevin to coerce Mike to respond and see what the costs might be. But I think I'm in the distinct minority there, and I recognize that. So I just want to explain. That's why I'm going to vote no.
Okay, and I understand, Richard, that's fine. I just want to say that Mike is not moving quickly on any of these things, and it may not be that we have the information by next week.
I
And
recognize
we
that.
are now facing the middle of April, where we had hoped to be complete with our lists and ready to review it again to see if we want to remove anything from it instead of sending all of it to the full commission. So that's just an FYI.
Okay.
But understood. All right, so is there any further discussion of this motion? All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
All those against?
I,
All right, so it's It's
He
five.
meant nay.
I know. He barely says nay, but it's all right.
Yay.
Motion is passed. All right, that's good.
I
So
did what I was told.
we're leaving it now that this we'll be taking this up again, hopefully with some more information. But this is currently, this is where we stand. Bob, do you have something?
Yes, I have a motion. My motion is to make all of these elected positions, and we can include or exclude the sheriff for now, appointed rather than elected.
Motion to, I'm sorry, let me understand this. All the positions that are in the county elected or
Well, we could name them, I suppose, but yes, all of the elected positions, other than the council, of course, that presently exist, I move to have them change from elected to appointed.
Okay.
Madam Chair, may I
Is
suggest,
there a second?
well, hold on a second. May I suggest a rewrite of the motion if Bob would agree? I think since we only have about 6 offices that are in question here, so can we just list them? I would say Bob motions to have the treasurer, the auditor, assessor.
Tony, let me list them, okay? Let me list them. Auditor, treasurer, assessor, county clerk.
There's the sheriff, but we may or may not want to include the
Sheriff.
sheriff on this one.
5. I can't think of another. I think that's it.
I think you're right.
5 elections.
I would presently include all 5 of those,
Okay.
but I would probably accept a friendly amendment if somebody wanted to make one. But that's my motion now.
So I
Tony,
have,
do you have?
let me reread it for you. I have the
Okay.
Bob motions to have the auditor, the county clerk, the assessor, the treasurer,
Auditor?
auditor,
And sheriff,
sheriff.
and sheriff.
and sheriff to be appointed.
Oh, the sheriff is included. Okay.
Paul, I would accept a friendly amendment to exclude the sheriff to be considered separately.
There's been, need a second.
If you want to make that, there's no second, so the motion dies anyway, I guess.
Well, we haven't asked for the second. We've been just trying to clarify the motion itself. So
Can I make it friendly ask for a friendly amendment to remove the sheriff from this one?
I would accept that friendly amendment as long as we then took up the sheriff after we take up this.
it's on our agenda. Okay. All right. Yes, David.
I was going to wait until there was a second to comment the way Tony did. I'm not sure.
I'm
Tony
not
would-
comment- No, Robert's rule, I'm not commenting. I'm asking for a friendly amendment.
I thought that came after the second because we don't even have a second yet. But whatever. If somebody seconds it, I want to comment. But
Okay.
I'll-
Is there a second to this motion? Anybody?
Motion dies then, I guess, or Madam Chair.
Yes, it looks like the motion does not pass. Okay, no second.
Hmm.
No motion.
Interesting.
Okay,
Can I
Now-
comment?
please,
Can I
David, go ahead, go ahead.
I think Bob may be on the right track, possibly with regard to some of the positions. I voted no because I didn't want to have to decide as a group that, oh, everybody is going to be appointed. I think we should have done it, and we still can look at it one by one and make individual decisions. For example, the auditor, I would never want to appoint the auditor. I think that's a bad idea. I mean, some of the other positions, it makes sense, but so.
Well, David, you want to make any motions? I mean,
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about it.
okay.
I'm thinking,
All right,
Well, let me float this one then, rather than us just be stymied, given what David said. I move that the assessor's position be changed from elected to appointed, one at a time, I guess. That's my motion.
all right. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, 2 for 2, Bob.
Let me ask this. It feels like it's the sense of the committee that everybody stays the same. Electeds all remain elected. If that's the sense of the committee, let's just make a motion about that and get on with business. I'm not going to make the motion because I'm not for it, but
Well, yeah, okay. So we made the motion that the 3 stay the same. correct?
Physically.
Already done that in the past. We did make that.
No, not that they stay the same as far as elected and appointed.
They stay as is.
That was just as three separate departments.
Yes,
Right. Yeah.
yes. But, okay.
No
Who has a-
changes in that
Tony,
regard.
Tony has a question. Go ahead, Tony.
How about if I make a motion that basically says that I make a motion that our current elected officials, the clerk, the auditor, the assessor, the treasurer, are to remain elected.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Paul D. Okay. Any discussion? Yes, go ahead, David.
Just like with Bob, I think we need to do it one by one. I don't like the idea of having to make a global decision, because I may feel one way for some of them and the other way for other ones. And I think we should be discussing them one by one. And we could either do that the old way we've been doing it, which gets kind of lengthy, is just some general global discussion. But maybe it'd be best if there would be an individual motion for each one of these positions, like there was for the auditor, and we decided now maybe we move, the auditor, maybe then next there should be one for the assessor, and then maybe one for the others.
We are slated to discuss, yeah, go ahead. Finish.
So anyway, that's the reason I'm going to vote no for this.
We have a sheriff's discussion coming up. Go ahead, Tony.
I'd like to change my motion if it's okay.
Okay,
Since Paul seconded, and I hope Paul will agree. I'm changing my motion since we already talked about the three positions of the county auditor, treasurer, and assessor. I'm making a motion that will leave them elected. So my motion is to leave the auditor, treasurer, assessor as elected.
I'll support that as a second.
okay, second. All right. Is there any discussion on that specific motion? No, okay. So let's call the vote. All those in favor?
Okay, auditor, treasurer,
And assessor.
and assessor. Okay, so we have a group of them and they're all staying elected. Okay,
That is
That's
the motion.
that's the motion. Okay, fair enough.
Second. All right, all those in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. 2. Okay, that's 4. 4 ayes and nays?
Nay.
Nay.
Abstain.
Abstention? Okay. 1 nay, 1 abstention. Okay.
If it will help the group, I would change my nay to an abstention. If it helps the way the vote looks.
Probably doesn't matter. It probably doesn't matter. Fine.
Actually, it does. If I may say so, because an abstention is meaning that
No
there-
vote.
it could go either yay or nay. So, but it hasn't gone. So I think 4 yay and 2
Abstention?
abstentions, I think is good.
What you can say then is that there were 4 people present and voting, and the vote was unanimous. Because Dick and I aren't voting.
That's
It's
right.
not that we voted and said no or half no or something. It's that we're not voting. So the 4 of you are all present. And
Go ahead, Dick. Go ahead.
No, you cannot say, I would object to that. You cannot say it was unanimous. That's misleading. Abstentions have to be recorded and acknowledged. And so you don't have a unanimous vote. And the reason I abstained is because we have spent all our time talking about whether to consolidate offices, not about whether they should be elected or appointed. I don't feel like we've put any time into that. And I'd have been happier if we just didn't address it.
But we have.
You have, and that's why I abstained, because I don't necessarily feel that I would vote no if we had some discussion. So my reaction was, no, I'm not going to vote on. I'm not objecting to your vote. I'm just saying
Yeah.
I want it understood, and I don't want somebody reporting that the vote was unanimous. It was not.
I got that. So Bob, do you want to switch yours to absent?
to abstain, yes. And let me comment further that I'm not an expert in Robert's rules, but I was looking at them yesterday about abstentions, particularly because there was a problem that came up elsewhere. And what I thought that I read was abstentions are not recorded and are considered not a vote, that the person wasn't voting, and that the vote is recorded as those present and voting. And you know, whether the other person formally abstained or was in the bathroom or whatever doesn't get written down, I thought, but Dick may know better than me about this. I'm not absolutely
He's not
sure.
saying-
I thought
Tony?
that's a,
Yeah, I mean,
What-
Bob is correct, but I don't want to belabor that for right now.
okay.
What I'm trying to get at is, since we went took the road to vote for either vote or elected or appointed for the 4 or 5 positions earlier, and that seemed to be too much for one of our members. That's why I went to having the 3, because we already discussed those 3 earlier as leaving them as is, like separate offices and so on. So I thought that if we would wrap that up and approve them to remain not only separate but also elected, then that would wrap this up, and then we can move on to the other items. But
That's what I'm trying to do.
yeah, but if otherwise it's going to be left up in the air for another week or another.
Right.
But it has happened. It's been approved, the motion.
Yeah, it has.
I'm
So
trying,
let me just point out something. We have discussed this March 7th, March 15th, and March 29th. It's not like we haven't taken a dive into how to divide them up, what that would look like, and we've had a lot of talk about it. I think today we've settled it and we've made a decision. Are you all in agreement there?
Yes,
Okay, so we can move on.
yep.
All right, let's go right to sheriff, because that's also,
Whoa, didn't we?
Clerk.
There's still
Yeah,
a
the
motion, is there not?
no, I thought the motion has been
It passed 4-0.
Oh,
4
yes.
ayes
Sorry,
and
sorry.
2 abstentions.
Well, I would like to move that and I know this is going to go nowhere, but I'd like to move that the clerk's office be made, I'm not going to waste my time, that the clerk's office stay elected, rather. The motion is that the clerk's office stays elected, or the clerk's position.
Well, I'll second that.
Okay, Paul Dossett seconds that. All right. Any discussion?
Oh,
We haven't really talked about the clerk at all. I mean, we had a nice presentation, and now we're voting. Go ahead, Tony.
I'm going to vote yes on this one. I've heard the clerk now twice, once last week and once a few weeks prior to that when I invited her to speak to the Orcas Island Lions. I'm convinced that that particular position has to be nonpartisan, responsible to report to anybody in the county other than working with the judges of both district and whatever the other court is. So I think this is a position that needs to be, stay as it is, as an elected position. Otherwise, either the judges or the county council will take control over her, or him, or her.
That's a good point. Is there any other discussion here? Okay, yes, David.
Well, I'm going to vote yes also. I just want to point out 2 things that might complicate decisions, and at least think about it. One is, as has been discussed in the operations committee, elected officials are exempt from the county's personnel system, the personnel manual, and the requirements that are in there about dealing with certain personnel issues, including abuse and whatever. That's one of the concerns, as I understand, at the operations committee. And Paul, I think you're the chair of that committee, maybe?
No, I am. Oh, yes, Paul is. Excuse me, Paul is.
Come on.
Forgot about that.
So, and one of the thoughts was, well, maybe if we bring everybody under being an appointed, that then they will all be obligated. We're talking about now the auditor and the assessor and the treasurer and the clerk. They would be obligated to follow the regulations of the county's personnel system, which are not today. But maybe there's some other solution to that. I'm gonna let the operations committee deal with that. I just want to point out that that was a possible consideration. And then the other thing was that I forgot. This is what the other thing is. So Tony had his hands up. If I remember what the other one was, I'll raise my hand.
Okay, go ahead, Tony.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I did talk to a couple of former council members, and it's clearer to me now. Only the elected officials are not part of the personnel manual, if you will. Everybody that works for them are actually county employees, and they are governed by the personnel manual. So if the question is, are there employees in the different departments that are elected not covered by the manual, that is not a correct statement. They are covered by the manual. Only the 5 elected officials are not. And we named
That's correct. That's correct. Okay,
that's part of the state. They're not governed. They're only governed by whatever the voters wish.
the state of Washington does not consider elected employees, except in the federal sense of taxation, and that's it.
I move for the vote.
You're moving for the vote. Okay. All right. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 So that is 5-1.
Well,
5 ayes. Oh, and is there a nay? Is there an abstain? Okay, 1 abstention.
so 5-1.
Okay. All right. Let's try and get to the sheriff here and find out what where we're headed with that. Now, we talked last week about doing a straw vote, but this seems to be moving in a pace. What is it, Bob?
I would like to make a motion that the sheriff's position be changed from elected to appointed.
Hold on a second, Sheriff.
I have a bunch of reasons for that.
I have a motion that sheriff changed to appointed.
Okay, have you got it, Tony?
Yes.
Okay.
No, sir.
Is there a second to this motion?
Interesting.
Okay, that is interesting.
So
Okay.
let's make the motion the other direction then.
Are you making that motion, Bob?
No, I'm not for it.
Okay, okay.
I'll move it. Well,
Oh,
go ahead. Richard had something.
Go ahead, Richard.
You're
You're not,
muted.
you're on mute.
You're muted. There you
Okay,
go.
Okay,
I will second it because I think we need to have some discussion of this.
all right, so are you now seconding Bob's motion, which is changing him to appointed? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because I'd like to hear why people, everyone but Bob is thinking it should remain elected. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. I think everybody can state their view once, but I honestly would like to hear.
Okay, all right, so we have a second. We're gonna roll back a little bit here. And I think, David, you had your hand up first. Go ahead.
I agree with Dick. This is the toughest one, I think, of the 4 or 5 that we've been talking about. And I think we need more time. And I think by considering a motion on it right now, we're going to feel like we're going to have to make a decision right now. And I would prefer not to have to do that. I think I would like to ask Bob to withdraw it. And in accordance with what Dick said, which I agree, let's just take this up in a more free-flowing manner and not in the confines of considering a motion. Because I think this is a tough one. At least for me it is. And Dick appears to think the same way.
Bob,
So
are you willing to
Well,
do that?
no, Dick seconded my motion, so he
Yeah.
wants some discussion. I'm not about to withdraw this motion. I think we're ready to go.
Okay.
Yes, Tony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've talked about this before a few times. What led me to my conclusion was when Ron Sims was invited to speak to us, and he basically said that, does the county want ownership of a particular department? If the county wants ownership of a particular department's problems and whatever, then we appoint departments. I think the sheriff is one of those departments where I want somebody that is elected, that is responsible to the public of what happens in the county.
Mhm.
If we appoint this person, then that means that person is, and somebody mentioned earlier about the old boys network. Well, imagine if you're appointed by 3 council members and you're working with 5 or 6 different department heads as an appointee. How much of the old boys network is going to happen if in fact that could have happened in the past? Or would you give a ticket to your boss, for example? Or would you, if your boss gets involved in some kind of a problem, will that sheriff be willing to, arrest their boss? So my feeling on this is, let the sheriff be elected. This way, the public has a certain say, and I really don't think that we're going to have the problems in the next years and future that we had maybe 20, 30 years ago, where there was this network of scratch your back, scratch my back kind of thing, and good old boy network. So we've talked about this a lot already. I think this particular position is good where it is, especially with having some really good sheriffs this time and a couple of years past. Not the immediate one, but the one before.
We discussed this on the 7th of March. We discussed it again on the 29th and took no action. Go ahead, Dick, you have something to say?
Yeah, just in response to what Tony said, I think even with the elected sheriff, the kind of hammer that the council always has is the budget. So I don't think it's fair to say that an elected sheriff isn't subject to those pressures. I think he or she is. The issue for me, and I haven't necessarily come to a conclusion in my own mind, is civilian control of the police. And do you get that to a greater degree if that position is appointed? Because the voters are farther removed. It's either every 4 years or a recall. Whereas if the sheriff reports to the council, then you have direct civilian control. And to me, that's the issue.
Interesting. Go ahead, Bob.
As usual, I find Tony's arguments persuasive, but well, I shouldn't say persuasive. I should say that I think they're good arguments, and it is what makes the choice for me a difficult one. But I end up clearly on the side of appointed. There's a couple of reasons. One reason is there's no denying of the fact that the way that it works is when the sheriff, a deputy sheriff, steps up, and that can be viewed as good, but it's also a clique of individuals. When you have the entire world, there are some people out there who will do a better job somewhere. I don't know if for sure that we'll get them, but there's a shot at it. We are making this decision not for now, not for the people who are running the show now, or even for the people who have run the show in the past. We're making this decision for 10 years now. And the people who are in those positions 10 years now are likely not there. The opportunity to look the world over and find the very best candidate is very, very enticing. They went back and forth with it in Seattle and King County, as we know, and yeah, you know, I understand that. So, I mean, for those reasons, I am for the person being appointed.
I hear you. Okay, Paul Dossett.
Well, there's somebody here that's not at the table, and that is the electorate. And, you know, we can't take that lightly. Their constitutional right to vote is being jeopardized here. And I think that we need to be more thoughtful of the electorate. If they were sitting at this table, they would have something to say. They have a relationship with the electorate. I experienced that myself with the assessor. I know it's happening with the sheriff. I know it's happening with the other elected officials as well. And that rapport, which is an intangible rapport, is there. And it's something that's between the electorate and the elected person. And we talk about that as tangible things here, but we're not talking about intangibles.
Got it. Thank you. Tony, you're next.
Thank you. I also mentioned last time about the personal knowledge that the sheriff, the elected sheriff has with the public and so on. But but here's another take that I want to take, which is in one, and forgive me, Bob, I'm not, with all due respect, in one paragraph, we're talking about wanting to appoint a sheriff because we want the best and the people who are responsible to the county and to the public, and we have to appoint that particular person. But yet in the same other paragraph, we're talking about appointing a climate czar as an
Oh.
elected position, where we are not going out to find the best and the brightest. And that person is going to be in office for 4 years, and we have no way of knowing if that person is going to be a tyrant or a person that's going to be able to function. So we have no recourse for that position. But yet, as sheriff, we were saying that we have to have recourse because we need to get them if there's a problem. But yet, at the same, so I would be cautious if I were proponents of one position to be appointed and one to be elected, that the arguments can kind of fight each other in a way, if you know what I'm saying, because I agree that we have to have certain positions, but certain positions I would say should be appointed because you want the brightest of the climate persons out there, because you don't want some 18-year-old to run for office and nobody opposes them and they get elected as a climate person. And then the same argument with the sheriff is that, so you can't have it both ways. So I think our message needs to be consistent.
Okay, I think Dick, you're next, and you have something. Do you have your hand up? No. Okay, David, go. Only a few minutes left here.
So I know how the election process works in terms of applicants, publicizing their candidacy, campaigning. There's all kinds of forums where they have questions and answers. I understand that. With regard to appointees, you were a county clerk, council clerk for a while. Were there any appointed positions that were filled, and how transparent was that process by the county council? Because I can see the county council shortcutting the whole process. I mean, they do searches and then they evaluate, but how transparent is that? And is the public really going to know what's going on? Is the public going to be able to participate in that process? Are they going to be able to weigh in with comments before they make a vote on the appointment? So could you compare the two processes in terms of transparency?
You're
And
asking
maybe it hasn't been one of those positions appointed because they're all elected. So maybe there hasn't been one.
Well, it's just there's not even a way to answer that because it's going to depend on who the council are, and that changes, and you can't put a script down on this.
There's no process, there's no established process for how to choose and vote on.
Appointeds are all going to go through Mike Thomas or whoever the manager is at the time, and then they'll probably screen and it'll go to the council after it's been vetted. So that's how it works. And
Well,
there's no definite. There's nothing really tangible.
That concerns me that there isn't. So
Go ahead, Dick.
Well, I was just going to say in response to David, let's be clear that it doesn't matter what the process is now. We can specify how it will occur. If we chose to say, to put before the voters, the sheriff shall be appointed, we can also include in that what the process would be to hire a sheriff.
including minimum qualifications, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Bob.
Having
We're gonna
gone through
wind
this,
this down here.
okay, having gone through this conversation, I'll just remind everybody of an idea that I put forward that basically everyone hated, which is to get the get the positive points of appointment and the positive points of elected in the same system, and that would be to appoint everybody initially, so that you get the people going out finding the very best people on the planet, right? Then after they've served their 4-year term, then it becomes an elected position in each instance. And the public gets to chime in as to whether or not they like that person, or whether or not it ought to be somebody else. you can do it, and it would get a little bit of it would be like kissing your sister. Nobody's satisfied fully.
Yes, go ahead, Dick.
Just with all due respect, Bob, we shot that one down in flames.
Yeah.
Yes, but now we've got this thing going. Well, we really don't. Everything's going to stay elected. I see it in the crystal ball.
Well,
So let's just do it.
This one is the hardest for me too. Trying to change what we're doing with the sheriff has, in my head, pros and cons, and they're both strong. And I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence with this. So how would you like to proceed? We've got this motion on the table. Tell me on Robert's rules how.
Was
No,
it
just
seconded?
think it through?
Did it
Yep.
get a second?
It was
Yes.
second.
Well, I move to end debate and take a vote.
Well,
My
Madam
motion.
Chair, let me just
Hold
say,
on,
Robert,
please, Tony, go ahead.
you asked what Robert's rule is. If one of us asks for the vote, 4 of us has to agree to the asking of the vote. But the chair can end discussion because you've heard everything already, and you can say, "Now I want a vote." But if one of us 5, other than you, says, "I want to end discussion and ask for the vote," we'll have to vote on that request.
Well, then I withdraw my request and give a heavy hint to the chairwoman.
Yeah, so the chair would say at this point that everybody has talked to their heart's content, and now we need to vote. So
All right, let's call for the vote.
Maureen, would you state the motion one more time?
I'll do that. Hold on a second.
Thank you.
Bob motions that the sheriff's changed to appointed. There was
Okay,
second by Dick.
From elected to appointed.
just want to make sure we're all on the same boat.
All right. Is that it? Okay, so call. Let's see. All those in favor, say aye.
I
1. Okay, 1 aye. All those in favor, against it, say nay.
Hey,
Okay,
All right, that's 4. That's 5. Did you vote?
I abstain.
Pardon me?
David abstains.
I abstain.
Okay, so it's.
now, having taken the vote and seen for sure that
1.
my motion fails, I'm willing to change my motion for the sake of unanimity. I mean, not my motion, but my vote rather, for the sake of unanimity. Can I do that?
Can you do that? I don't know.
If
Can
so,
you?
I do.
yeah, you can.
I would
Okay.
like to change my vote to no against my own motion. And that is for the sake of unanimity.
Okay,
Way to go, Bob.
thank
Wow,
you.
you won, Bob, you won one.
Yeah, you're on the table now. That's good. Okay. All right, so this fails. And we're back to square one, I guess. Now we're almost out of time. Shall we, let's talk about what we want. Oh, let me ask for public comment. Can I just do that real quickly? Is there any person listening to our meeting today that wishes to speak or address us? Okay, we move on. New business. How do you want to handle our next meeting? What would you like to do? We have,
Are we done?
we're almost done. We have the language on minimum requirements, qualifications that is still dangling. And we now have, do you want to revisit this sheriff thing, or do you, we're done with the others?
Aren't we done with the sheriff?
Are we completely done with the sheriff?
We decided not to change it.
Fine.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we
we're
decided
done.
not to do that. Okay. We decided not to appoint. Okay. What is it, Paul?
Well, number 7 on your task list,
Yeah,
it speaks to language regarding the minimum requirements for elected positions. We haven't
and that
talked
was
about
something David and Dick were going to work on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You guys are going to come up with some language. Do you recall that?
Yes.
David and Richard? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be prepared next week? And I'll put it on as our agenda for next week? Okay.
No, let me comment. I'm not gonna be available next week. I'm gonna be with grandchildren in a remote, safe, COVID-free location.
Okay, so David Dellendorf will not be present next time.
Uh,
All right, but the rest of us will. So that'll go on, and hopefully, we're done with the auditor treasurer thing. So whatever comes from Mike or doesn't come from Mike, it's now not even relevant.
Right,
So
that's right.
all we have left then is the requirements. And I don't see anything else. Now, we are going to need
Maureen,
findings. We're going to need to support the things we're going to send in. Yes. What is it, David?
the list I started a while back, you're using a different list. I had one other item, require the county manager to have a deputy. Did we decide on that already? Is that off the table?
That is not under electeds. I don't think it's under our group.
It was assigned to us originally, yes, unless it's been transferred to somebody else.
I require him to do anything.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Yeah.
Tony, hold on, David. We'll figure that out. Yes,
when
Tony.
I talked to Mike Thomas regarding another committee I'm on, and I asked him about that particular item, which is he says it's in the budget, but he elected not to have one right now, or he did not need one because there are a lot of different things going on and different department heads that he deals with. So they know about it. It's in the budget, but he does not have a in need for an assistant right now. And I don't think as a charter, we can say in the charter that the county manager has to have a assistant. I don't think we can do that. That's just micromanagement.
Sounds like a moot point.
The other thing is Mike hired an analyst. He has a county analyst, and that was sort of his negotiation with the deputy thing.
Yeah,
That
he
just
said-
gave him somebody to work.
He mentioned that he needed more of a budget analyst than he did another
Yeah,
assistant.
got it. Okay, David, go ahead, because this is a point.
And in all due respects, Tony, that's not what the issue is. The issue is whether we have decided or not to have a debate now and not to have comments now. But is that still an issue? It's on my checklist from the beginning. And then there's another one. And again, let's not talk about the merits. Let's talk about whether it's still term limits was another one that I have on here. And then
We
there was,
already decided term limits.
okay, well, that's what I was looking for an answer to that. And then another one I had was establish police oversight, an advisory authority. But I commented back at that time, and I don't know what the answer was, to transfer that to another subcommittee. Is that an issue for the equity committee instead of us? Because originally it was assigned to us.
I don't recall that on my list at all, and I think it is going to the other group. And in terms of I think we have to drop. Okay, hold on. We have to drop the deputy to the manager. We can't do that. Oh God. Stop. Anyway. No, I don't think we can handle that one. That's going to be off our, and we can just make a statement saying it's not appropriate for us to recommend that.
I move that we drop that issue completely. That's not even, no further discussion. Let's get it in the record because this checklist and we need to.
Okay,
Take it
we'll
off.
do that. You're moving to remove the recommendation. Okay,
Well, no, it's not a recommendation. I move that we do not go forward with further consideration of requiring the county manager to have a deputy or something to that effect.
That's within the chairman's prerogative. I don't think we have to have a motion and.
I don't
decide
either.
as a
I
group.
think we're just going to let that one. We're just going to say we're not.
Document it though, document it in some way.
Well, we'll put it in minutes. We'll have that in the minutes. Okay.
All right.
All right. So next week we will talk about
Requirements.
requirements. Okay.
About one sentence about that, Madam Chair?
Please.
One sentence. Let us not lose sight of the fact that somebody, I believe it was our county attorney, Randy Gaylord, put out a memo regarding that and set out specifically that there were some requirements for some of the positions. Whoever's looking at that as a subcommittee of this committee or whatever needs to take a look at that memo.
Okay, find Randy's opinion, you're saying.
Yes.
And I will just say, because that falls to me, my intention is to talk to Randy to get
There you
him
go.
to elaborate on that, because there are parts of it I don't completely understand, so I will do that.
Okay, we know that the assessor has specific requirements, but some of the others are vaguer. Okay, we're there. And I think next week we start looking at our list and saying, where are we moving forward to the full commission and where are we going to not? So as I see it, we may have only one or maybe two more meetings that we need. Is that your idea too?
Yeah.
I see that we only have maybe one or two more meetings.
Mhm.
I think we should meet until the end of June, no matter whether we have anything to talk about or not.
Just watch baseball.
I left you speechless.
You said, I'm looking at you and going, what? What? Well, then how about you and I'll just meet? How about that? We'll just keep talking on
Wait
the
a minute.
What is that, David? Yes?
Yeah, one thing I've been concerned about for a while is abbreviated minutes. Most subcommittees, most of the minutes have been abbreviated. How are we going to elaborate on the findings? The findings are going to have to go with any of our decisions, but I don't know that we have documented any of the findings or many of them. They're not necessarily in the minutes. So how is that going to,
When we agree to what we are going to move forward, then we will require the findings. I have already written for the county manager being appointed. I've already written something and I can share that with you. It can be in two different formats, but the others I think are mild. And when we actually have this discussion, which we will start next week, we will agree. We'll all have to take a point or two and draft up some findings. I think that's the only fair way to do this. Okay. So that'll be assigned. All right.
Madam Chair, I have to leave. I'm sorry.
Okay. Go ahead, Dick. What do you have to say?
I think what we might do too, and we can discuss this next week, is if we don't get a volunteer, let's just ask whoever made the motion and seconded it, those two people, prepare the findings.
We could do it that way too.
And then we're all going to review them anyway to make sure we all agree.
And I'm also very respectful that some of you have heavy loads from other committees and I'm trying to share the burden here. So I get that. And I'm very grateful, Tony, that you've taken those motions down. That's going to help assemble this just very, very well. So next week, we're going to, like I said, we're going to do this, look at language on requirements, and we're going to start assessing where we are as a committee on our list. And I think we can move through this pretty quickly. And I will send around what I have written on the number one thing with the county manager, okay?
Move adjournment.
All right, we're good? Ready to adjourn?
End the recording.
I will, but are we all done? Then we adjourn. Thank you, guys.
Aye.
thank you.
Bye.